Christmas time. Now I want to make it clear from the start, I'm no Grinch. In fact, I love Christmas. The actual day itself though, the build up to me is just a complete hassle. Although I will say with the technology these days of being able to do all your Christmas shopping online, that's a godsend. I hated having to go to shops. They are always overcrowded with fannies panic buying, myself included, and I just have such a low temper when it comes to idiots in shops. Not the people working, I should add. If it isn't worrying about buying presents or working, then it's nights out. I've got a few gigs lined up and a couple of nights out planned which I can't wait for. What I'm saying is, I feel at Christmas time I really don't get any time for myself. The feeling of sitting at the table on Christmas Day eating a lovely meal with the family and having a few drinks is great. It's almost like a feeling of accomplishment, like I've bared it for another year. So with how much little time I have, there's no opportunity for me to sit down and properly enjoy a game. I thought I'd end the year off with a Christmas themed game for you guys, so here it is. Daze Before Christmas on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. I hope you enjoy. Daze Before Christmas is a platformer released for the Super Nintendo in 1994, developed by Funcom and published by Sunsoft. It was released for the Sega Mega Drive first, exclusively in Australia, and then later ported to the Super Nintendo. From what I could find online, the Super Nintendo is the superior version, so it made it easy for me to decide what version of the game I'd cover for this video. Straight on to the main menu and you get a jazzed up version of Jingle Bells. What the hell is up with Santa's voice?
Ho ho ho, Merry Christmas.
Assuming that is supposed to be Santa, that is. You have a choice of 1 or 2 player. Seeing as it's just myself, we'll be flying solo. Now for a little backstory. Basically, an evil snowman and his minions you seen on the title screen have stolen Santa's plans for Christmas, scared away all his elves, but more importantly, destroyed all the presents, so it's up to Santa to get them back and save Christmas for all the kids around the world. Reading this gave me a complete headache. Now I'm very aware that English wasn't my greatest subject when I was in school, but the wording is well off in these passages. Came across as more of a ramble than a coherent story. So Auntie must be Santa? Pick presents all the way? To face the foes so bravely? And make it through the day? But then I had a thought. Maybe it's supposed to be sung in the style of Jingle Bells. So Auntie must be Santa. Pick presents all the way. To face the foes so bravely. And make it through the day. That might be correct. However, that's not the music you hear in the background. So for me, it just comes across like that drunken text you get off a mate at stupid o'clock in the morning that makes absolutely no sense. Anyway, let's get into the gameplay. And if you haven't guessed it already, you play as Santa. As the story goes, you make your way through the game's 24 levels collecting presents and saving Santa's elves along with the reindeers. With it being a platformer, it's a really easy game to pick up and play. You use the B button to jump and Y for Santa's attack move. The controls are tight and responsive. The only thing that threw me off a bit was the fact that when you're running, your character isn't dead center of the screen, so it's incredibly easy to run into enemies by mistake. He picks up great speed really quickly as well, so I found myself running a bit, then stopping. It became pretty annoying because by this point you already had the likes of the Mario games, which for me is a blueprint of how a platformer should be at that time. Obviously not copy it, but at least have the character in the centre of the screen at all times so you're not constantly starting and stopping. When it comes to the game's enemies, they are incredibly easy to take care of. The majority of them only take 1 hit and they're done. The enemies aren't too imaginative either. For example, when in snowy levels there will be a lot of snowmen. When in the attic level, you'll come across spiders. With each enemy being so easy to take care of, it became pretty boring fast. Also, how does this make sense? In earlier levels you come across these tanks, 1 hit and they're finished, but a little RC car later on in the game takes 2. This threw me off guard because up to this point, apart from the bosses, every other enemy takes 1 hit. You'd think a tank could take a battering, surely. Not this little RC car. As boring as the enemies may be, they are important because it is the enemies that drop presents that you need to save Christmas. There are also presents scattered about in each level that you have the choice to open. Some may include a bell that indicates a checkpoint. You also find Santa's elves inside these, a Santa hat that will allow you to take an extra hit, but they may also hold a threat to you in the form of a bomb that will explode or even an enemy. There's a magic potion that can be found in levels that are essentially a brief power up. Collecting one of these will turn you into Anti-Claus, Santa's evil twin. You have a brief period of invincibility. It's set to 10 seconds, but this can be changed in the options menu to a maximum of 30 seconds. You also have a stronger attack which sees Anti-Claus throwing his ball bag about viciously, which I found a bit pointless seeing as the majority of the enemies you face, as I stated, only take one hit. The invincibility is good though because it means you don't have to worry about running, as I mentioned earlier, because you'll just fly through everything. I must point out though, it's only good in levels where you aren't jumping from platform to platform, but I'll get into that later when I talk about the level designs. There are 4 bosses in the game, the same ones you've seen on the title screen. Much like the generic enemies you see throughout each level, they are pretty easy to take care of. During one of these boss fights you don't even have to move, you can just stay on this cloud while it floats up and down, hit him, wait for the stun phase to end, and hit him again. Easy. There was one I made a total arse of though, the rat. You have to lure him onto this conveyor belt and hit a switch to drop a weight on his head. I kept doing this over and over again, hitting him, he'd go into a stunned state, and I'd lure him over to it again. I will say the boss fights for the most part do overstay their welcome with how many times you have to hit them, but this was going on for ages. Then I finally realised while he was in a stunned state I had to go down and attack him. What, a weight over the head wasn't good enough? Even though they do overstay their welcome, they are a nice break from the monotony of single hit enemies. The last boss was a bit underwhelming though. Before each level you see a picture along with the level name. They all look brilliant for the most part and some are even pretty humorous. I thought the final bosses looked cool as ever, but when I got in I couldn't help but laugh. Look how cheesy he looks. After each boss fight you get a completely different style of level. These see you flying across the city's sky in a sleigh delivering the presents you got from killing enemies. You can only deliver presents into the chimneys that have smoke coming out of them. What, can we not deliver them to the families that can't afford to have their heating on at this time of year or something? They've done a good job representing each city, like when you're flying over London, you see the Tower Bridge with hot air balloons with the British flag on them. You do have to dodge certain things in the air like in Russia. I don't know if these are supposed to be bombs or satellites. When flying over Japan, you're dodging rockets that have dogs attached to them. Honestly, what the hell is going on? So the game has 24 levels and I must say they are represented really nicely. Displayed like an advent calendar, but behind each door is not chocolate, but a level you must play. You guessed it, with there being that many levels with the theme being Christmas, they run out of ideas fast. Don't get me wrong though, the first time I seen them I was really impressed, especially with how vibrant the colours are and how easy it was to tell what you can and cannot interact with, but when I slowly seen the same levels and assets being reused, it became a bit of a chore to play through about halfway in. Some of the choices too in level design I found really annoying, especially when you had to jump from moving platform to moving platform. Unlike in Mario games when you clearly get to a point where there is a moving object you need to jump on, it doesn't make it that clear in this. I also found that you pretty much had to stay still to trigger it, so for first time players it's understandable how you'd get to a point, not see anything, then just take a blind leap of faith to your death most of the time. There was also times where I was not sure if there was ledges underneath me that I could jump on. You can crouch down and it will slowly show what's underneath, completely slowing down the pace of the game even further. There was a few occasions when the developers thought outside the box though. One in particular where water rises up through the level as you ascend it. It gave me the feeling as if I was racing against the water. It definitely helped having a level like this to break it up a little. Also, to fill in the gaps with having to make 24 levels and obviously not having that many ideas, some of these levels just felt like throwaways. There was a couple of levels that you can complete in literally seconds, usually involving you having to fall down a hole. The first time I seen it, I thought I had died but was surprised to end up in the next level. I do understand it's a bit of a segue into a newer part of the game, but I feel as if they could have used these bits to develop somewhat of a story to go along with it. It didn't take long to complete, maybe just over an hour. At the end you get placed on a leaderboard with the points you accumulated over your playthrough, which got me thinking, what if I played the game the complete opposite way to how it was advised to me at the start in the story passage? I was interested to see what would happen if I didn't save the reindeers and didn't collect presents. What would happen during the flying segments when you are delivering these presents? So I started it up again, avoiding all the enemies I could and not picking up any presents whatsoever. It was a lot easier than it sounds. I purposely didn't save any reindeers this time because how would you fly a sleigh without any? Finally got to the first flying level and guess what? It's the exact same, but you can't drop any presents down the chimneys. How's there even reindeers here? I didn't save any. I turned the game off and decided to reevaluate my own life. Like honestly, what was I really expecting to happen by doing this? The game is pretty easy to be fair. They are very generous with the amount of Santa hats and extra lives they give the player. So getting a game over is pretty much impossible. I didn't see a game over screen once. If you do get a game over, don't worry, the game has a password feature that takes you back to where you left off from. I know it probably came across as if I didn't like it, but it's hard not to like it in a weird way. With how hectic this time of year is, it was actually really refreshing sitting down and bashing through such a simple game without any worry. Would I recommend it? Yes, I would actually. It's fun for what it is apart from the few annoying moments with jumping from platforms, but it's fairly easy to overcome this once you wrap your head around how it actually works. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked this video then please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. It helps me know what I need to work on when making videos. Also consider subscribing if you enjoyed this. It's free and helps my channel grow and reach a wider audience. If you've played this game yourself, I'd love to hear your opinion of it down in the comments. More importantly though, I wish you a brilliant Christmas. I hope you're spending it with your loved ones and I'll see you in the new year. Take it easy. See ya!